Hey guys, good morning. My name is Dr. Rachel Moore. I am here this morning representing the pelvic crew, and I am so excited to talk to you guys about the Olympics and some pretty big stuff that's going on in the Olympics this year. The Olympics is huge in my area. Simone Biles actually lives like 5 minutes away from me, which is like my claim to fame, humble brag. My daughter went to her gymnastics gym, and so if you've seen the Simone Biles documentary that's on Netflix, we were like fangirling and fanboying when we were watching it because we are like, oh, that's where Livy does gymnastics. So Olympics are a pretty big thing in our area, in our neck of the woods. And I think the Olympics this year are really interesting. And I wanted to get on this morning to highlight some of the things, especially when it comes to women in sport, that are really kind of setting apart this Olympics from ones in the past. If you didn't catch it, the opening ceremony was on Friday. It was a really interesting one because they were just kind of doing this like parade of river boats down the river. And they incorporated all of these like architectural pieces of France architecture into the opening ceremony. So it was pretty interesting to watch. And it just kind of set the tone for how different this year's Olympics are from a lot of the other Olympics in the past. So, one of the key things that I think is really interesting, and I didn't even realize this until somebody else on faculty had shared a story about this, is that this is the first Olympics that has been almost equal representation as far as genders go. So the IOC set out to have a goal to have 50-50 participation between male athletes and female athletes for this year's Olympics. And they actually just barely fell short of that goal. So the way it shook out with the amount of athletes that showed up and qualified and came to the Olympics was 51% male, 49% female. A lot of us in the ICE world in CrossFit, we're kind of used to seeing that 50-50 representation. And that's one thing that really makes CrossFit unique compared to a lot of other sporting organizations. And so it's cool to see this transition or start seeing this change and this shift towards women in sport take this like worldwide platform where it's not a male dominated thing and we're seeing more females represented, and within that, we're seeing more women that have children represented. So motherhood is really starting to take a front row seat to the Olympics. So Allison Felix, who is the most decorated female track and field athlete, she's a U.S. athlete. She actually made headlines a while ago because she lost her sponsorship with Nike when she told them that she was pregnant. And so that was this huge shakeup as far as women athletes and females in sport of we are not a liability when we're pregnant. We're not less than because we choose to have children. And a lot of women, we see this a lot where people are delaying having children because of this athletic window and this fertility window kind of overlapping. And so when athletes decide to start their families and then there's this response where they get dropped in their sponsorships, that sends a certain message about what a female's role is and what her worth is in sport once she becomes a mother. And so Allison Felix really spoke out against this and started this really amazing conversation about this overlap and about maternity leave and about just female in sport and how motherhood fits into that role. She took this to the Olympics this year. So she's an athlete representative for the IOC, and she actually started an initiative, and it did great. And it's a thing now to open a nursery for mothers with young children at the Olympics. So historically, the way it's always shook out in the past is that children are not allowed in the athlete village where athletes and coaches stay for the duration of the competition. So if somebody was breastfeeding a baby and also competing at the Olympics, they either had to choose to be separated from their baby for the duration of that competition, or they would have to kind of foot the cost of lodging for themselves. The problem with that is that Olympics is expensive and not everybody has the funds to even go compete at the Olympics. But then if we're thinking that somebody qualifies for the Olympics and now they have to pay for a caregiver maybe for their child, and also they have to pay for lodging for their child, or they're not going to be able to to be there, that could make somebody not go to the Olympics that had qualified and had earned their spot. So it's pretty cool to see this shift start happening. The nursery is actually sponsored by Procter and Gamble, so Pampers is like branded all over it. It's kind of funny if you look at pictures because they literally put Pampers in like every square inch that they possibly could. But it's a really exciting thing. So it's for children that are diaper age and below, and their parents and their caregivers can go and kind of get away from the chaos of everything that's happening at the Olympics and have a quiet space to be together, to spend time together, to bond. And then, really, a big thing is to nurse. The Tokyo Olympics, the last Summer Olympics that we had, was right in the kind of height of the pandemic, or I guess kind of the downhill trickling of the pandemic, if you guys remember. And there was a lot of restrictions on the athletes. And so the athletes weren't allowed to bring support people, families, people had to stay behind. They were traveling with this like skeleton crew. And ultimately, they IOC ended up saying that people that had young babies that were nursing or young children could bring their children, but it was a very separated thing. And the room that they provided for the mothers to spend time with their children and to be able to nurse was honestly pretty laughable. It was pretty wild. If you just Google like Tokyo nursing room Olympics, there's a picture of one of the athletes, like 2-year-olds laying on the floor, and there's like a folding table with 2 folding chairs next to it. And that's where the athletes would go to spend time with their children in between their events when they weren't training or they weren't preparing for the games. Again, if we're thinking about the message this sends, that really tells people like, you're here to be an athlete and everything else doesn't matter. Like, we don't care that you also might be a mom. Oh, it's okay, you need a space. Well, here's this like folding chair in the corner. That message is so different this year. The message that IOC is sending this year is that we recognize that the maternal timeline and the athletic timeline might overlap. And your worth is not only as an athlete, and we recognize that your worth also exists in motherhood. Allison Felix had this really cool quote. She said, I think it really tells women that you can choose motherhood and also be at the top of your game and not have to miss a beat. That's amazing. We preach that all the time in our division. We talk a lot again about how the fertility window and the athletic window overlap. And what we're starting to see is this trend of women pushing back and saying, yes, we can still be athletic. Yes, we can still be in the top of our sport and also show up for our families and also feed our babies and us be their primary source of nutrition while we're training for the Olympics. So it's really cool to see this take an again worldwide platform to acknowledge that these things can exist at the same time. There's a couple other countries and groups that are showing up for their athletes as well. So the French Olympic Committee is actually paying for hotel rooms for their breastfeeding mothers to stay in. So again, before athletes would stay in the athlete village with their coaches, partners and babies would stay elsewhere. They couldn't go spend the night with them. They had to be in the athlete village. So the French Olympic Committee this year has started an initiative where they're paying for hotel rooms for nursing mothers where they can go spend the night with their baby. Their partner can be there as well. So kind of minimizing this interruption between this mother-baby bond. And what's really cool is that they made a statement that this isn't just because, quote unquote, the Olympics are here in our home ground. This is something that we want to see carry over into future Olympics. So they're really, again, just kind of setting this example that motherhood matters and that we can do both. So really exciting to see. When we look at the numbers, the US has 338 women on their team, which is the highest amount of women on an Olympic team. France has 293. So these top 2 countries, as far as women and female representation, are really just showing up for all seasons of females' lives. From what I could find, I was trying to Google like exactly how many moms are on the Olympic team. And I even asked ChatGPT, I was like, what percentage of Olympic athletes are moms? And it was like, we don't have that data. But I did see several articles that said that this year the USA team has 16 moms that are representing the US, and 5 of them are on the basketball team. So kind of astounding that out of 338 athletes, If that number truly is 16, that's pretty wild. But again, it's really cool to see that representation and that acknowledgement as a whole. It's really exciting that we're seeing this culture shift that we have believed in, and we have seen again in the CrossFit world with Annie Thora's daughter and now Tia and all of these top athletes really embracing their motherhood and talking about how motherhood has affected them as an athlete. And watching this happen, not just in the CrossFit world where we all kind of live and spend time, but in athletic world as a whole is so exciting. And I just can't get over the fact that the Olympics, which is this massive platform that so many people are tuning into, are really highlighting and bringing attention and awareness to the fact that these athletes are also mothers. These athletes are doing these things simultaneously, and it can be done. It's a really exciting message. We are all about it here at ICE. We are here for it. We're excited to see it continue. And here's hoping that at future Olympics, committees, other country delegations, and that this nursery just continues to take off, and that the athletes really enjoy it. If you guys want to hop in to our pelvic courses, we have a lot of chances to catch us in September. So we've got Hendersonville September 7th and 8th, Wisconsin September 14th and 15th, and Connecticut September 21st and 22nd. So a lot of ways that you can come hang with us on the road in September. Our next L1 cohort starts September 9th, and our next L2 cohort starts August 19th. So if you're interested in an ICE course, especially in that pelvic division, head on over to PT on ICE and sign up for your course. Otherwise, keep an eye on the Olympics. If you guys have a favorite sport, comment it below. Let me know what it is that you're going to be watching. Obviously, I'm going to be all in on gymnastics because Simone, let me know what it is that you're going to be watching. Obviously, I'm going to be all in on gymnastics because Simone actually my neighbor, even though she's really not. But I got her into horseback riding. So I keep like hyping up all of these equestrian things so that she falls in love with horses. It's not working yet. We'll see. You guys have a great week. I hope you guys crush it. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.